Hello, I'm Edward Peake. Welcome to this first edition of Arts Alive, the arts programme here on Bay Television. In the weeks coming, we're going to explore the many and fascinating aspects of the visual arts here. Very, very rich treasure trove on Merseyside. There couldn't be more things to look at. There are exhibitions, all sorts of things to go and see and go and do. And I think you'll be fascinated at the range of things. We're going to watch something called Capoeira now, fusion of martial arts and dance.
So, Capoeira is an Afro-Brazilian martial art. It was created by slaves in the 17th century. The actual history on Capoeira is a bit vague. Most of the documents on slavery were burnt around the time slavery was abolished. So Capoeira historians have tried to work out the history behind Capoeira, behind its origins. It's sort of widely believed that it's derived from a lot of different dances and tribal dances, martial arts from West Africa. It's an amalgamation of all these different things, and it became Capoeira. Capoeira was used as a weapon to fight the captivity. But of course, at the time, slaves weren't allowed to do a martial art. They weren't allowed to learn how to defend themselves. So what they did, having derived it from dances and different tribal martial art forms, they turned it into a dance to disguise the fact that they were learning a martial art. So whenever we do Capoeira, someone kicks, someone escapes. It's non-contact. There are times when we have contact, of course, and if you're playing a friend, you might want to kick someone. But basically, it's non-contact. It has elements of dance, gymnastics, acrobatics, and of course, martial arts. In Brazil, Capoeira it's got a different reputation. Because Capoeira was created by slaves in Brazil, when slavery was abolished, none of the slaves, or the people who were slaves, could get work. So a lot of them turned to crime. And a lot of them used Capoeira as a way to fight people, as a way to get money, steal. So it got a bad reputation and it was made illegal. It wasn't until sort of the first quarter of last century that schools became legal. It was one man. There was many schools of Capoeira, but they were unofficial, they were underground. One man made it legal by going to the government, showing Capoeira as a martial art, made it legal. So only for the last less than 100 years has it been a legal sport to learn, which means that it has a bad reputation still. People from the upper classes, and there's a big divide in the classes in Brazil, feel that Capoeira is for the lower classes, starting to edge into the middle classes more, but still upper classes, it's not for them. Whereas you come over to Europe, to America, to Asia, everyone does it. In fact, often you see a lot more people, doctors, lawyers, people with money, high status doing Capoeira because they see it as being exotic and a good way to get fit. We're actually now working on projects to bring it to exactly the opposite in Brazil. We're trying to bring it to the poorer communities, to the disadvantaged people. And that's so a complete switch in the way Capoeira is. There's a specific instrument called a berimbau, and it's completely Brazilian. It's made from different things that you can find on the floor, basically. Originally, so it's made a big piece of wood from a specific tree called a beriba, is the wood. It's very bendy. Then the resonator that makes the sound is called the cabaça, and it's made from a gourd, from the family of pumpkins. And it's hard, you have to hollow it out and cut round, get all the seeds out, make it really thin. You attach that to the beriba, and then originally it was done with pig's intestines, a bit like a violin, but these days what they use is a wire from a car tire. So literally you'll get a car tire, cut it open, there's about 12 little wires inside there. You take them out, you clean them up, make them the right length, put them onto the bembao. You have to arm it, so you pull the beriba so it comes in an arc, put the string down, put the cabasa on the bottom, and then you use a stone and a stick, and that's it. You hit, and you have basically 3 sounds that come out. One's a mute sound, one's a high, and one's a low, and that makes the rhythm. And there are different rhythms you can play. A rhythm dictates how the people play in the game.
When we say things like we play a game, it's specific to capoeira, this terminology. Usually it means we spar. So instead of calling it sparring, we'll play. Because it's all thought of as a game. There's no winners or losers at the end of it. You might win one day and the next day someone else wins, and then you keep trying, you keep playing until you get to a high level and you play well. Capoeira is built in a very playful way. So there's like a lot of little tricky, sneaky moves and things like that, which is it's all part of like malandrage, which is literally, in capoeira it literally translates as the tricky moves, the sneaky moves, being able to mask what your intent is in movement.
Like many other martial arts, we have belts. You'll see people wearing them today. They go on the side of the pants. They're not quite like other martial arts. They look like curtain ties. It's the best way to describe them. There are only 4 or 5 student belts in our group of capoeira, but each group is different. And then from then on, there's more teacher belts than there are student belts. So it's kind of different to conventional martial arts, where every year you will get a new belt. You'll get a new belt, get a new belt, get a new belt. Capoeira is not the same. There's only, as I say, 4 or 5 student belts, and you can have those belts for 10, 15 years, for 20 years, for your entire life, until you start teaching, and then you'll get a teacher's belt. And from then on, there's a lot of levels.
My first class, I remember it, and I hated it, funnily enough. I've been doing it 4 years now, and I do it every day now. But when I first started, I didn't understand it. I didn't know what all these instruments were. I didn't know why people weren't hitting each other really. It was like a martial art. But once you get, I tried it a few more times to see if I could, get a bit of a better understanding. And after, I love it now. It's calmed me down a lot. It's brought a lot more confidence to me. It's given me, I'm generally a lot fitter these days. I'm practicing every day, 2 hours a day at least.
Basically, I started doing capoeira starting from September 2012, so almost for 2 years now. And I just love it. I started doing capoeira first of all as a way of exercising, and kind of, just doing something different from going to the gym and exercise, be in shape. But then I just fell in love with it, and then with the social aspects of it as well. And I started doing it more and more. As a dancing side, a sports side, and a social side. Because with training as well, you get to go to events from for different groups in different cities in the UK and also different countries. You get to meet people. You kind of form a network. So I've realized that capoeira is a bit of a network, You get to know the Brazilian society more, because when you started doing capoeira, and then you started doing music, and then you start learning samba, and then you start learning salsa. It's just interesting, I would say just try capoeira, because it's a good way of making friends, get to know more people, and also just, get to be involved in the culture more, Get to know a lot of people from different parts of the world.
Kids as young as 2 can do capoeira. My teacher's even done a class for toddlers, for kids about 6 months up, and it's just a little movement class, but it gets them interested. There's a mestre of capoeira who still plays capoeira, who's 92. So you can literally do it from 2 to 92 to 100, whatever. As long as you can move, you can train capoeira. So you don't have to have any form of fitness before you start at all. We always let people do as much as they can. And of course we're going to push you to do a little bit more, of course, but then what would a fitness class be without that? But we are more than that. So not only is it a fitness class, but you actually go away learning a skill. So you learn a martial art, you learn music, you learn gymnastics, acrobatics, everything. It's just crazy. Fitness, stamina, you build up muscle, make some great friends. You learn rhythm, you learn how music. It's just fantastic.
So, do capoeira.
And welcome back to Arts Alive, the arts programme. Well, now we've got a feature which you're going to see, something which you've seen every day in Liverpool from a great distance. Now is your chance to see the live bird in a way that you've never seen it before.
The live bird is probably the most iconic element representing Liverpool. Early next year, a sculpture representing the famous cormorant will take place in Central Station. Entitled The Spirit of Liverpool, it will be welcoming an average of 16 million passengers a year. The art piece has been designed by Live Birds Incorporation, an organization dedicated to the city's heritage and history. We met Rick Mayers, co-owner of the company, who came up with this idea.
I realised that you couldn't really buy a live bird anywhere, and I thought I'd make one. So I decided, I didn't really know what a live bird was, what its history was, what its origins was, anything like that, didn't know. So I did a bit of research, and I think most people in Liverpool associate the live birds with the ones on top of the live buildings, but in actual fact they only date from 1911, so they're comparative newcomers. The original live bird dates back to the time of King John, when in 1207 he granted Liverpool a royal charter, which was really the seed for Liverpool developing into the port it eventually became, one of the greatest ports, arguably the greatest port in the world at one period in history. But at the time it was just a little fishing village and agricultural village, a very, very small settlement. And King John really wanted Liverpool so he could build a castle, so he could move troops to Ireland and things like that. So once I knew that, I could establish that the original live bird was in fact the eagle, and that's the best proof for that is on the seal of Liverpool, which shows a bird, and there's various inscriptions on that which suggest it relates to King John. I came up with a design which I was happy with, which we made into a small statuette. We got a couple of versions of it, a tiny one and I think it's about 9 inches tall.
From the statuette, artist Barry Canning-Eaton has created a 6-foot-tall model. The process has been going through several layers of different materials before the actual bird can take shape.
This is the original, and this is what I've copied. So what I've done is taken it from this size up to 6 foot. So under here is the metal frame, and it's all a clay model on the outside. It's all exactly the same as this. And then to take the mould of it, it's silicone rubber, and then a fiberglass coating to hold the whole rubber mould in place prior to the wax, getting the wax shell. What happens is the wax is all put on the inside of this mould, on this inside here, and each piece of this will have a ceramic shell around the actual wax, and then that is fired out to leave a hollow inside the ceramic shell, which is filled with bronze.
Well, I wanted it to be in bronze because, of course, bronze was the Great Britain was lagging behind Europe really until we got copper from Ireland and tin from Cornwall, and found we could mould the two together and make bronze, and that was the start of the Bronze Age, which enabled England to Great Britain, if you like, to get a jump on Europe in terms of development. The same way, you know, the King John Charter enabled Liverpool to develop as a port. So I wanted it to be made in bronze because it's an ancient material and it reflects that catalyst, if you like, from an important place to a really important place. And when you look at the city of Liverpool and the number of good causes and charities that began in Liverpool or in Merseyside, you know, the first Children's Society for the Prevention of Cruelty, the first organisation to protect animals, first council houses, first public park, first public wash house, school for the blind. I mean, the list is literally endless, and I think that makes Liverpool a very special place, claims that no other city can make. And I think that the Live Bird, more than anything else, comes to, for me, represents that spirit, the spirit of Liverpool, hence the title of the piece. In the end, we got some initial funding to get as far as, well, you've seen how far we got so far. We've reached a stage now, or we will be at the stage shortly, where we can take the mould to the foundry for casting in bronze. But it was really difficult it was also difficult to find the right site. We haven't got our first choice site, but we think Central Station's a very busy place, has about 16 million visitors every year. Busiest underground outside London, I believe. So loads and loads of people are going to see it. We hope it will become an icon for the city, and lots of people will want to have their photographs taken with it and stuff like that.
The spirit of Liverpool won't be displayed until early next year. In the meantime, one question remains unanswered. What is the bird carrying in his beak?
So the Live Bird, in a way that you might not have seen it before. So I'm going to go and have a look at that. It looks fascinating. So in the next programme, we're going to have a feature about the Dada Fest. Here's a little taster of what you'll see.
Dada Fest is more than an exhibition. It's a concept really to celebrate the lives of disabled and deaf artists and the way we create work, to help to shape society to think better around issues to do with disability and inclusion. We've been working with this festival now since 2001, and it's got bigger and better every year. We have an ongoing programme. We do a big young people's programme, and we have 20 young people who actually lead that work. And that's very
so you've
exciting.
got new blood coming in. That's
new blood
very important.
This coming weekend with Dada Fest, the young people have programmed it. I'm very excited. We've got everything from light graffiti workshops to Crip Hop Nation coming from all over the world, through to Oscar Bright, which is a film programme led by learning disabled people. So there's a whole mix of different things coming through there. The festival, though, is very much international, and that happens every 2 years. We work from a political point of view, which we call a social model of disability, which means our impairments don't disable us. Like, I'm a deaf woman, but I'm not deaf. I'm not disabled because of my deafness. I'm disabled because society puts barriers up which prevents my access. And they disable me. They stop me taking a full participation, active role in the past. It's better now. So there's that side of the way we do our political work. But the other side of it is we grow up with a certain knowledge about the way we live, our lived experience, and they are cultural, important cultural markers for us. And often they're not celebrated or looked at. Disability is often viewed from a deficit point of view. So we're trying to celebrate our lives through doing work like this, and also informing and challenging society to think about our lives in a different way.
I suppose really what you're saying is we're all disabled, but some of us not yet.
Yes, absolutely. We're either disabled or not disabled yet, or tabbies, temporarily able-bodied is another term.
So that's a little taste of what there is to come next week. So I hope you will join us here on Arts Alive, the arts programme here on Bay TV for a major feature about the Dada Fest. See you then.